We are on question 22 of FPT7 Math HiSet, and what we have here is a backpack that's on sale for 25% off, and after the discount is taken, a 7% sales tax is applied. If the original price of the backpack is P and C is the final cost in dollars, then how do we represent this in an equation? So the first thing your students have to understand is that the full price of anything is 100%. What we have here is 25% off, which means we're going to take 25% away from that 100%, and we're going to end up paying 75% for our item. But the thing is, we're not just going to pay 75%, we're going to have to also add sales tax to that. So the way that they're going to figure their sales tax is they're going to take this 0.75 and they're going to multiply that price by 0.07. Whenever we multiply these two together, clear this out, 0.75 times 0.07, we are going to end up, I had to look at something for a second to make sure I was doing it correctly. We're going to end up with 0.5. So we're going to take these two, and that's going to tell us the amount of tax that's being added to our original price. So our cost is going to be the original price times 0.75, which is what we have here, our 75%. Our original price is price times 0.75. Now the thing with this problem is that instead of using what we found as the tax amount over here, instead of doing that, what they decided to do instead is they decided to take the 75% that we were paying and using it as we're paying 75% one time, and then we're paying 0.07 of another 75%. So what they actually ended up doing, and I don't like this at all, but I'll explain the answers in just a second. What they ended up doing is taking the 0.75 and multiplying it by 1.07. I don't like this question at all because it's way too confusing for the students, and it doesn't use the type of formula that you would expect to be using. So let me explain through process of elimination what's happening. A tells us that the cost of the item is the original price times 0.25 or 25%. That's incorrect because that's the amount that's actually on sale, okay? B says the cost of the item is the original price times 1.07. What this would be is actually the original price plus that 7% sales tax. So that's not the answer. C is taking the 25% and acting as if that's what we paid for it, and then multiplying that by 0.07. Now let me show you what happens if you do that real quickly. If I take 0.25 and I multiply it by 0.07, it gives me a tax amount, but it doesn't give me a cost. So this one is also not going to work, because what it would be doing is taking that tax amount and multiplying it by the original cost. So that one's not going to work either. The next one doesn't work for that very same reason, because P is the original price of the backpack. So what we would be doing here is taking the original price of the backpack, multiplying that by 0.75, and then multiplying it by 0.07, and that's not going to give us what we need. So the only answer that's going to work is this one, because the 1 right here represents 75, and the 0.07 represents the tax percent. So instead of writing the problem the way it should be written, it really should look like this, but HiSet decided to do it in a little bit more complicated way. This is the original price plus the original price multiplied by 0.75. We should be adding to that the sales tax amount, but that is not the way they have it set up at all. So this is what I think the answer should be, but that's not what they gave us. So what they're giving us is they're treating this 0.75 here as a whole, okay, a whole portion, one whole portion, and then 0.07 of another portion, and they're multiplying it instead of adding to this 0.75. In my opinion, this is one of the more confusing questions because the answer is just not very logical. So your answer for this one is going to be E, and if your students have problems with this, there's a very good reason for it, because it does not follow the kind of logic that I would expect from this type of test. So we go from a problem that is very, very difficult to one that's pretty simple. A newspaper published the table below. It shows a sample of daily wages paid by 5 local factories, and these are our factories A, B, C, D, and E. It says each factory reported the wages of 5 workers. So each one of these columns, or each one of these slots in the column, represents the 5 workers. What is the median daily wage reported by factory D? The median means the middle range, okay, the middle wage. So to find the median, we look at the highest and the lowest. Our lowest is 200, our highest is 220. We have 220 reported twice here, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take out the 200, so pretend like I'm marking it out, and we're going to take out the 220. Now our next lowest is going to be 205, and our next highest is going to be 220. So when we take out the very lowest and the very highest, the next lowest and the next highest, we're left with the median wage, not the average, but the middle number of the range. And what I like to do with these, a good way to figure out how to do this is, one second, and I'm going to show you. The way I teach this to my students, and it's really, really simple, is I take the numbers and I write them in order. So 200, then 205, then 210, then 220, and 220. And here's what I do. I say lowest, highest, next lowest, next highest, middle. That was supposed to circle. Okay, and that's how you're going to find the median on this particular problem. Okay, number 24. You have to read this one very, very carefully to figure out exactly what's going on with it. What you have to look at is it says the worker at factory A who made 180 a day received a raise and now makes 195 per day. If this value were changed in the table, how much would the average wage increase for factory A as a result of this raise? What they're saying here is that only one person, the person who received the $180, he's the only one, this one right here, is the only one that got a wage increase, okay? So he went from $180 to $195. So his increase was a $15 increase. He's the only one who got the raise. None of the other four got the raise. So what we're going to do is we're going to take his raise, and because we're trying to figure out an average, you take the number and you divide it by the total number of people that you're looking at, and that's going to give you $3. To figure out an average of anything, I'm going to show you, even though this isn't the question, I'm going to show you how to figure out the average of factory workers, their average wage. So one guy makes $140, someone else makes $160, someone makes $200, someone makes $190, and someone makes $180. So all together, originally, they made $870. If I were to divide that by 5, the average for workers there would be 174. So now that I've taken his wage increase, the $15, and divided it by 5, it would be as if everyone got a $3 increase, even though they didn't, because we're looking at factory A as a whole and what the increase of factory A is as a result of this raise. So your answer for this one is going to be A, $3. Last question. Lydia and Claudia have the same number of charms in their collections. That means that they are equal to each other. Lydia started with 6 charms and bought 3 more packs. Claudia started with 9 charms and bought 2 more packs. If each pack had X charms, which equation can be used to find X? So we're not sure how many charms is in each new pack, but what we do know is that Lydia had 6 charms to begin with. Then she bought 3 packs with a certain number of charms. And that's equal to the fact that Claudia had 9 charms and she bought 2 more packs with X number of charms. So if you look at the different equations that they have set up, the only one that's going to work is going to be this one right here, because it takes the original amount of charms, then it takes the number of packs, and we don't know how many charms is in each pack. So that's where we get the X from. So E is going to be the only possible answer for this. I hope that this has been helpful to you guys, and I hope that it will be helpful for your students. Let me know if you have any questions or any problems with it, and I will eventually have a booklet / handout for you that goes through each problem.